Mr. Sergeant of Arms, invite the members into the chamber and close the doors. I hereby declare the House of Representatives of the 114th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee now in session. Will the members please stand? Will the visitors in the gallery please stand and remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance? Representative Clemens will introduce the chaplain of the day. Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome everybody back to the House floor for this beautiful day. I am proud to welcome Cantor Josh Goldberg to our state capitol today in the House of Representatives. Along with Rabbis Flip and Lori Rice, Cantor Goldberg leads congregants at Congregation Micah, where my family is a proud member. Cantor Goldberg is an accomplished vocalist and musician, a prolific songwriter, music producer, filmmaker, and educator. Born and raised in Dallas, Texas, he moved to Los Angeles for his undergraduate and graduate studies, earning a Bachelor of Music in Popular Music Studies from the University of Southern California and a Master's of Sacred Music and Cantorial Ordination from the Academy of Jewish Religion in California. He served as a cantorial intern in Los Angeles at Temple Akiba and Stephen Wise Temple. Before that, he spent time on the road with Jewish music icons such as Craig Taubman and Rick Recht. Cantor Goldberg is a proud member of the American Conference of Cantors, the Cantors Assembly, and the Recording Academy. Cantor Goldberg's compositions have been published in multiple anthologies by Transcontinental Music, the world's largest publisher of Jewish music. Cantor Goldberg has put his Jewish and musical knowledge to work, producing recordings for dozens of outstanding Jewish music artists from all over the United States, releasing 4 full-length albums of his own, as well as producing an award-winning feature-length film, all of which are commercially available. His work is regularly featured on Jewish Life television and Jewish rock radio. At Congregation Micah, he works and engages with congregants of all ages and walks of life, including students at Micah's Children's Academy, teaching J-Lab, religious school, and Bri Mitzvah students, including my own sons. He engages young adults with My Connections and works on adult education programs. Colleagues, it is my esteemed honor to welcome my friend, our cantor, Josh Goldberg, to lead our blessing this morning. Cantor Goldberg.
Thank you, Representative Clemens. Good morning, or Boker Tov. Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the Universe, source of wisdom, compassion, and justice. We gather in gratitude for the blessing of this day, for the privilege of self-governance, and for the sacred responsibility entrusted to those who serve in this chamber. My name is Cantor Josh Goldberg, and I'm honored to serve as a clergy member at Congregation Micah in Brentwood. And today I'm humbled to be the chaplain of the day for this session of the Tennessee House of Representatives. Our synagogue's namesake is the prophet Micah, who famously asks, "What does the Lord require of you?" And the answer, of course, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly. May these 3 pillars guide every conversation held here today. Justice, so that the laws are fair and equitable. Kindness, so that policy never forgets the human being behind the issue. Humility, so that power is exercised with wisdom and restraint. The Torah commands in Deuteronomy 16:20, Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Not justice once, but justice twice. Justice in outcome and justice in process. Justice not only for those who agree with us, but for those who do not. Justice that protects the vulnerable and strengthens the entire community. The Jewish sages teach in the Talmud, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. This, they say, is the essence of moral law. May that principle echo in debate and deliberation. May disagreement never diminish dignity. May conviction never eclipse compassion. And I'll end with this song that I wrote just for this occasion. Let justice roll like a river, and kindness like a mighty stream. Let us not forget that we are all set in God's image, B'Tselem Elohim. Let each of us hold on to hope. Let each of us hold out our hand to help out our brothers and sisters who suffer all throughout this land. And our work shall not be finished, our task shall not be complete, until every man, every woman, and child in this nation can say, I am free.
Representative Clemens will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Roll call.
Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 94 members present.
Let journal reflect Representatives Gant, Moody, Capley, and Farmer are excused. Next order, Ms. Clerk.
Welcoming, honoring, and announcements.
Welcome on our announcements. Representative Fritz, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome two of our pages for today, Lachlan Scoggins of Knox County and Carter Houston from Kingston, Tennessee. If you all give them a big warm welcome, I would certainly appreciate that.
Representative Wright, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Roddy Edmonds, born in Knox County in 1919, joined the Army in 1941, arrived in Belgium 4 days before the Battle of the Bulge. Edmonds was among those captured and held at Stalag 9A, where he was the senior NCO of nearly 1,300 POW. Their first morning, all Jewish POWs were supposed to stand out by themselves the following day. Edmonds instead ordered all 1,300 to report. With a pistol to his head in order to identify the Jewish soldiers, Edmonds replied, "We are all Jews here." Edmonds is recognized as saving some 300 Jewish American soldiers. This story didn't come to light until after his passing in 1985, when eyewitnesses in his journal revealed the extreme act of heroism. Appropriate review of the facts has taken place, and he will posthumously be awarded the Medal of Honor.
Representative Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, a reminder that your amendments to the transportation omnibus bills are due in my office by 4:30 tomorrow. That's Friday the 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Speaker. I had the opportunity to go to Savannah a couple of years ago, and I know we all saw the tragic news of Dr. Linda Davis, who died in a car accident from a gentleman who was escaping out of fear of what was happening with ICE, and actually killed this innocent woman 0.5 miles away from the school where she served. But this terror, this fear that so many people have in our communities about ICE. This individual, as we know, thus far hadn't had a criminal record before then, was really terrified after seeing all the things happening around our country. And so we just need to recognize, particularly in cities in our state that are occupied by this administration, where ICE and all these other agencies are creating and stoking so much fear, innocent people are also just consistently being put in harm's way. So I actually remember.
Representative Slater at Leader Lambert's desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, if you would stand with the Sumner County delegation and to remember the passing of a Sumner County and Julie Brackenberry, She passed away on Valentine's Day, and very influential and prominent in Sumner County. She served as the editor of both the Gallatin local newspaper and then the Portland local newspaper. Very talented graphic artist, and that's when I got to know Julie a number of years ago. She also served as an at-large council member. And so if we could have a moment of silence for her husband, Greg, and her son, Ethan, and the rest of her family. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to announce that this year's Ag Day will be March the 17th on the Hartwell Plaza. Just put that on your calendars, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to celebrate the life and legacy of a man that who was glue during a very divisive time, who was a mentor to so many, who was a great person not only for this country but internationally. I wanted you all to stand with me to have a moment of silence and celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise for two occasions. For tomorrow is my 27th wedding anniversary. And so I want to tell my happy anniversary. Hey, my math was a little bit off, but she probably doesn't watch these things, so I was happy. But I also, the way that I could remember my wedding date, I got married on my brother's birthday. So tomorrow is his birthday as well. So I'd like to wish my brother Steve Dixie a happy birthday. Thank you.
Representative Love, it was that? Yes, sir. All right. Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members, if you all would stand with me, on Tuesday, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but my 27-year-old nephew passed away. He was a wrestler, we thought he'd go on to college and become really good at it. But later in life, something happened and we couldn't figure it out, but we learned that he had a mental health issue. And so he's been dealing with it, the family's been dealing with it. And so Tuesday, apparently he passed in his sleep. So there's an autopsy to find out what happened. But a moment of silence for my family, my sister-in-law and my husband. They are really taking it really hard. And he and my son
Thank you. Representative Towns at Chairman Clemens' desk.
Mr. Speaker and members of the House, I'm sure now you all have seen this on the news, what has happened in our country. Unfortunately, they found these skiers, 10 plus, 13, 14, 15, 16 of them, did not make it because of an avalanche. And the irony of it is that one of the people that are searching for them, his family member was killed in this avalanche. So for our countrymen, if you don't mind a moment of silence, please. If you would stand with me for a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Welcome and honoring announcements. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction to resolutions.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all resolutions properly filed, be introduced pursuant to order number 17 and placed on the consent calendar, referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate Joint Resolutions congratulatory and memorializing.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all Senate joint resolutions congratulatory and memorializing, line that has to be placed on the consent calendar, pursuant to order number 17.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Resolutions lying over.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that all resolutions lying over refer to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that House Bills 2,637 through 2,639 be introduced and passed on first consideration.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on first consideration.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move the Senate bills 1,468, 1,488, 1,569, 1,592, 1,594, 1,679, 1,680, 1,691 transmitted by the Senate be held on the desk pending third consideration with the companion House bills.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on second consideration, House bills on second consideration.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that House bills 2,627 and 2,629 through 2,636 be passed on second consideration and be held on the desk or referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Petitions and memorials, reports from standing committees, reports from select committees, calendars. Mr. Speaker, the House has a consent calendar.
Vice Chairman McCalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of the consent calendar in third and final consideration in keeping with Rule 50.
Vice Chairman moves passage of the consent calendar. Probably seconded. Mr. Clerk, any objections been filed?
Mr. Speaker, item 40, House Joint Resolution 927 has been objected to by Chairman Clemens. Item 57, Senate Joint Resolution 558 has been objected to by Chairman Clemens.
Thank you. Anyone seeking recognition on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we're voting on the consent calendar. All those members in favor, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Has any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 94, no nays.
Having received a constitutional majority, I declare the consent calendar passed without objection. The motion for consideration table. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the House has a regular calendar.
Call up first bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1481 by Chairman Bolso and others relative to days of special observance.
Chairman Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of HB 1481 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Bolso moves passage. Following second. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a bill that designates the third Sunday of June on our state calendar as Father's Day. We already have on our state calendar the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day, but we have not yet designated a specific date for special observance of Father's Day. This is a particularly appropriate time to do so because fatherlessness continues to be an issue in the United States. According to the America First Policy Institute, 20 million American children live without a father in the home. 25% of children are raised in single-parent households, and that number is almost 40% in Tennessee. It's also been demonstrated that children without a father in the home are more likely to live in poverty, to experience drug abuse or alcohol dependency, and to drop out of high school. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Bolso renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Pearson, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Speaker and sponsor. If this legislation had just stated what's already true about Father's Day and the day that it is, that would be one thing. But when you read what you're articulating inside of the resolution, there are just a few things that are concerning. One, let's agree on something. I do think it is so important, imperative, useful, and helpful for people to grow up in two-parent households. I was fortunate and blessed to grow up with my dad and my mom together, married for 31 years now, and understand research that says just the benefits of this and all of those things. The challenges that I have, one is this date already exists, and so this is a duplicative piece of legislation that is more being used as political propaganda than actually changing anything substantial in people's lives. The second problem is it doesn't recognize that there are a lot of other people who step in father-like figures in our communities and for our kids that also are quite impactful. I think about my own nephew sons whose father tragically has passed away, and my brother and I were called dunkles or dad uncles or uncle dads or whatever the case might be. who sort of step in to fit and fill that role. But in the way that you've written this, it's only about a nuclear family. It doesn't talk about the different types of father figures that actually step into kids and individuals' lives. And so it's restrictive, and what you are articulating is actually a good father or father-like figures in people's lives. And the third reason that I can support this legislation is simply this: it does not talk at all about how we're making it more difficult for people to be fathers. You talk about fathers being providers, but yet in our state, medical debt is one of the highest in the entire country. In our state, access to livable wages is very difficult when the baseline is $7.25. We're not making it easier for people to be fathers when we pass legislation that creates more felon disenfranchisement, where people aren't able to participate in society with appropriate citizenship, and then we make it difficult for them if they re-enter society. We're making it very difficult for people to be fathers in this country, and it doesn't articulate at all how it was actually law or policy in the United States for fathers not to be present in the home when mothers would get access to governmental benefits such as SNAP or EBT, literally kicking fathers out if a mother was using or having the need of government services. So your legislation misses so much. And while I think it is attempting to elevate this ideal of what we would be commemorating or recognizing, it is not, in my opinion, meeting that bar. And for these reasons of the fact that already exists, it is too limited in its scope, and it ignores how difficult in our state it is for people to actually parent, to become fathers. We aren't even, and my wife and I are married, aren't even planning to have kids because of how expensive everything is. This, again, is very symbolic, but it is not talking about articulating the challenges that we're seeking to change in our state to make it easier for people to be mothers, to be fathers, to be parents of children in our state. And so that's why I won't be supporting your resolution. Thank you.
Representative Bolzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my good friend from Shelby County, I'll point out that there are a number of things about this resolution that, although I understand you will not support it, that we can agree on. One is that Father's Day exists to support all fathers, biological fathers, stepfathers, adoptive fathers, all fathers. It's universal. It's completely comprehensive. And this bill simply brings Tennessee in line with the national celebration of Father's Day on the third Sunday of June, which has been the case since 1948. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we sponsored this bill. We talked about this in committee, and I just shared my, reservations about this bill. So I have no issue with observing Father's Day. I don't think anyone in Tennessee has not observed Father's Day. We all know what Father's Day is. I'm proud to be a father myself. The issue I have is some of the language with these whereas clauses, which I think are included simply for political purposes, that talk about that fathers are the leaders of our families, which in my case was not true. I grew up in a single parent household. I lost my father when I was 5 years old, and I was raised by my mother. She was the leader of my family. And I have no issue with fathers. I was lucky enough to have a lot of mentors. Actually, I had a big brother who was my mentor and instilled a lot of important values in me. But I just take exception to saying that the father is the leader of the family, because we often know that that mothers are just as important as leaders of the family. And then also the reference to nuclear family. And I wanted to point out, I went back, as you mentioned in the committee, that you got a lot of these whereas clauses from the 2025 resolution that the President Trump and the White House put out, where he says in this resolution that he stands with our dads in shielding children from the toxic lies of gender ideology. So again, even the language where you got this from is filled with a bunch of political rhetoric and nonsense. If we really wanted to celebrate fathers, we would simply run a bill, in my opinion, without these whereas clauses, as we know they're not even going to get encoded. And so I don't understand why we have to go through with all these whereas clauses that can exclude or make people feel like they're not part of the family. I am glad, though, that we are recognizing all fathers, including those that come from families that have two fathers. So that's really important. But for those reasons, I can't vote for the bill as written because of the whereas clauses. So appreciate, I know we talked about this in committee, but just wanted to say that on the floor. Thank you.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my good friend from Davidson County, I honor your personal experience of being raised by a single parent, by a mother. Obviously, having a father in the household is no guarantee of success, and not having one is no guarantee of failure. And you're certainly proof of that. And it's a pleasure to count you as a colleague here. But I think, regardless, we can all agree that having a father in the home is important for the vast majority of American children, and that most families succeed with a mother and a father intact in a nuclear family. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll renew my motion.
Representative Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the sponsor. I didn't realize you ran this, that we didn't honor Father's Day. And regardless of whether a father is president of the House or not, the fathers that did head our household, that did head the family, they contributed a lot. And I want to thank you for honoring that and making us aware that we did not honor that in Tennessee. So thank you very much.
Speaker Pro Tem Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll move previous question.
Previous question been called. Is there objection? There's objection. We're on the board. All those in favor of previous question vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 70, 24 noes.
Previous question prevails. We're voting. All those in favor of House Bill 1481, vote aye when the bell rings. Opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 73, 15 nays, 4 present, not voting.
House Bill 1481, having received the constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. The motion reconsiders tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1473, by Chairman Bolso, relative to marriage.
Chairman Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of HB 1473 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Bolso moves passage following second. Mr. Clerk, call it First Amendment.
House Amendment 1 by Representative Salinas. Mr. Speaker, this time we
Please
file.
remove the lady from the balcony, please, troopers. Thank you. Keep going, Representative Bolso. Representative Salinas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What my amendment does is it takes out the word purported from the bill. It doesn't change anything of the bill, it just takes out that word. That word is not part of the Obergefell decision. So that is what my amendment does. So I move for adoption.
Representative Salinas moves adoption of amendment number 1, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? See none, we're voting on the board. All those in favor of adopting amendment number 1, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 23, 70 nays.
Amendment number 1 fails. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Boso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a bill that does not change existing law. It simply clarifies existing law. It provides that the 14th Amendment and the U.S. Supreme Court's interpretation of that amendment in its Obergefell versus Hodges decision in 2015 are not binding on private citizens. That is currently the law, and this bill simply clarifies that in our Tennessee code. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Boso renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Chairman Clements. Yeah, we have a parliamentary question. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary inquiry is a member allowed to engage in debate and then present a motion to the body? The answer is yes, as long as that motion is not previous question. Previous question must be made without debate. Subsequent to that, there was another question about members having a right to close on the amendment that failed. No one had called previous question. There was nobody on the list, so the body just voted.
Representative Harris. Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sponsor, as I understand your bill, it says that no private individual or organization in Tennessee can be bound by the 14th Amendment. Is that correct?
Representative Bolso.
Speaker, in substance, yes.
Representative Harris.
Section 1 of the 14th Amendment provides that no state shall deny to any person the equal protection of the law. Would you say that this would deny any person the equal protection of the law?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, this bill does not deny equal protection by the state to any person.
Representative Harris.
Thank you. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment provides that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Do you believe that this legislation would deny anybody life, liberty, or property without due process of the law?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, this legislation does not allow any state to deprive any person without life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment provides that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment provides that all persons born or neutralized in the United States are citizens of the United States. And Section 5 of the 14th Amendment provides that Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of the 14th Amendment, and that a state cannot override the U.S. Constitution. Do you believe that?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When you say, do I believe that, what is the antecedent of that?
Representative Harris.
A state cannot override the U.S. Constitution or give anyone or any entity in that state the permission to override the U.S. Constitution. Do you believe that that is absolutely true?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. States are not allowed to violate the Constitution under the 14th Amendment.
Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And sponsor, what is your definition of purported?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Purported would be a synonym for alleged or supposed.
Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Chairman Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today with sincere concerns about this legislation for multiple reasons, and I'll elaborate upon those. First of all, the fact that this bill starts out by saying private citizens and organizations are not bound by the 14th Amendment as a standalone clause. As we know, or as most of this body should know, the Constitution that we took an oath contains the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed citizenship and civil rights to formerly enslaved people after the Civil War. It ensured equal protection and due process. It overturned Dred Scott, prohibited states from denying rights to any person. The very fabric, the very spirit of the 14th Amendment was to limit states' powers to ensure that every citizen was equal and treated as such. So any attempt to say that we're not bound by the 14th Amendment is a slap in the face to the very spirit of the 14th Amendment. And now I understand the sponsor has taken issue with the way the 14th Amendment has been interpreted by the Supreme Court, but the way to challenge that is through the court system. As lawyers, we do it often. As a lawyer yourself, you're very familiar with the process. If you disagree with Supreme Court precedent, you challenge it. You go through the court system. You do not violate or attempt to violate the supremacy clause of the Constitution. Article 6, Clause 2 is very clear. We do not have the authority to do what we're trying to do here today. To characterize this or mischaracterize this as already the law and we're simply clarifying it, I think is a gross exaggeration, not only of the power of this body, but also what we're attempting to do here, which is to deny humans, fellow citizens, equal rights. Now, if you don't think they should have them, personal opinion. If you don't think they should apply in certain cases, personal opinion. The problem is we do not have the legal authority to make that decision. The federal government and the court system has interpreted this as charged by the Constitution, which they interpreted. The gross nature of this bill has an inherent flaw. And my final concern with this piece of legislation is we all know we draft bills, we go through the process. We are limited when we draft caption bills or when we draft bills. We're constrained by the Tennessee Constitution, which is very clear that a bill cannot see its caption. This bill, the very first sentence of subsection E says private citizens and organizations are not bound by the 14th Amendment. Stop. Because the next word is or. So you got to interpret that first phrase independently. That is a standalone phrase. The 14th Amendment covers more than marriage. The caption of this bill says it's only relative to marriage. So because of that, this bill, the substance of this bill, the language of this bill exceeds the caption, thereby violating the Tennessee Constitution relative to captions in the state of Tennessee. Therefore, this bill is inherently flawed whether you agree with it or disagree with it. It will necessarily be challenged because it blatantly violates the Constitution with regards to the limitations on captions. As I said, the 14th Amendment covers a whole host of things: citizenship, civil rights, equal protection, due process. You can go down the list. My colleague from Memphis outlined some of them. I've outlined some of them already. And that speaks to the gravity of this, the significance of this provision, us as a state trying to overturn Supreme Court precedent with a bill that is inherently flawed in multiple ways. And because of that constitutional issue and inherent flaw with the caption of this bill, Mr. Speaker, I move that we re-refer this to House Judiciary.
That's a proper motion, properly seconded. All right, you've heard the motion. There's a second. We're on the board. The motion has been to re-refer House Bill 1473 to Judiciary. All those in favor of re-referring to Judiciary, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 24, 69 days.
The motion fails. Yes, you got 22 seconds. Chairman Clemens.
Ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how you feel about this legislation or whatever the stated intent is, it's inherently flawed for multiple reasons. Under the supremacy clause of the Constitution of the United States, the purpose of the 14th Amendment, the spirit of the 14th Amendment was to limit states' power to protect the equality and rights and dignity of all human beings in this country. And I would ask that you oppose this. And by the way, it exceeds the caption.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And frankly, I believe the comments from my good friend from Davidson County show the need for this legislation. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment has 4 clauses to it. It's got a citizenship clause, a privileges or immunities clause, a due process clause, and an equal protection clause. All four of those clauses are limitations on the power of a state. They are not limitations on the power of private citizens. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that very thing consistently since the 14th Amendment was enacted in 1868. It first addressed the issue in a case called In Re Civil Rights Cases in 1883. And it said explicitly that the 14th Amendment does not apply to private citizens. So the argument that was made without citation to any authority that this bill violates the Supremacy Clause is simply false. The U.S. Supreme Court addressed that issue again in 1948 in the Shelley versus Kramer decision, saying exactly the same thing, that the 14th Amendment binds states, it does not bind private citizens. And even more recently, in the year 2000, in U.S. versus Morrison, Chief Justice Rehnquist once again reaffirmed the Supreme Court's prior holdings in Shelley versus Kramer and in In Re Civil Rights cases, and said again that the 14th Amendment does not bind private citizens, which is all this bill says. So any argument that somehow this language or this bill is unconstitutional or is a violation of the Supremacy Clause is completely inaccurate, and it is stated without citation to any authority to support it.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The plain text of the bill says that no private individual or organization is to be bound by the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment covers a wide variety of subjects, including birthright citizenship, the privileges and immunities of citizenship, due process under the law, equal protection under the law, the apportionment of members of Congress, pensions, and the national debt. But the caption of the House Bill 1473 says the bill is relative to marriage. Mr. Sponsor, in regard to the caption to House Bill 1473, what is your bill relative to?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill relative to marriage.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
All right. Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as you heard the dialogue between my chair and the presenter of this bill, again, regardless how you feel personally, this belongs in a court of law. Did you hear the dialogue? This belongs in a court of law. And for some reason, the sponsor of this bill is trying to use this august and esteemed body to bypass his way to the Supreme Court. That bothers me tremendously. So, to the sponsor, as you stated, private citizens aren't bound by the 14th Amendment. Are there any other amendments that you feel private citizens aren't bound to? We're having a conversation.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let me first address the good representative's first comment about this body not being an appropriate place to deal with these issues. And I'll simply point out that that is not historically true. I mean, this body, almost exactly 10 years ago, adopted House Joint Resolution 529. That happened in March of 2016. And House Joint Resolution 529 was a House Joint Resolution that expressed this body's disagreement with the U.S. Supreme Court's June 26, 2015 decision in Obergefell. And House Joint Resolution 529 expressed its agreement with Chief Justice John Roberts' his dissent in the Obergefell decision. So this body has been dealing with the repercussions of the Supreme Court's federal overreach in Obergefell ever since it was decided. And the term federal overreach appears expressly in Representative Lynn's resolution, which many members of the body sitting here today agreed with and voted in support of. So the idea that somehow this is an issue that belongs in the court system is completely backwards. This is an issue that belongs in the political branches of our state government, not in the judicial branch of our federal government. That was the entire problem. The Supreme Court reached out and decided something that was not in any way based on the Constitution. That is something that Chief Justice Roberts mentioned in his very first opening line of his dissent. So whether you look at this historically or whether you look at this in terms of our current context, this is an issue that's completely appropriate for this body to deal with.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says that, provides that no person, private person, who engages in an insurrection may hold office. Is that something that you feel private citizens don't have to comply with as well? I'm trying to get to a point where I understand why this piece and what the scope of what this can do to our state.
Representative Boso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I mean, respectfully, my feelings are irrelevant. The question is, what is the law? And the U.S. Supreme Court has said time and again that the provisions of Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, and in particular, the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment do not bind private citizens. That is what this bill says, and that is what the law is.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Section 2 of the amendment provides that that the House of Representatives be apportioned to the several states according to their respective numbers and population. And we had a conversation a few years back about, you know, the Monroe Doctrine and things of that nature. Is that something that you feel should come back in? Are we going to use your piece of legislation to reestablish things like that?
Representative Boso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, this bill simply deals with the 14th Amendment's equal protection and due process clauses and Obergefell's interpretation of those clauses.
Representative Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think one of you at my first year in this body gave me this book, which is the U.S. Constitution.
Representative Bain, that's considered a property. You can't do that. You have to set it down, please. Thank you. Representative Bain, you're recognized.
Chairman Bolso, I have a few questions just to get on the record for the imminent lawsuits. So one, would this legislation allow a community bank to adopt a policy of refusing to grant mortgage loans to same-sex couples?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's a legal question that involves more than just this bill. I mean, that question implicates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and I'm not going to give you a legal opinion as to that question.
Representative Bain.
So that's a yes. Okay. Two, would a privately owned healthcare clinic or provider be able to deny treatment to a same-sex couple?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to give you the same answer. What this bill does is it simply clarifies the scope of the 14th Amendment and Obergefell's interpretation of it. Your questions, respectfully, my good friend from Davidson County, go beyond the scope of this proposed legislation. It's completely off the bill because you're now asking questions that involve both federal and state anti-discrimination laws, not just Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but the Tennessee Human Rights Act, TCA Section 4-21-401 at SEC. And I'm simply not going to address questions that go beyond the scope of this bill.
Representative Bain.
Members, this body does not get to pick and choose which constitutional rights we like and which ones we don't. If a right is federally protected, whether it's the First Amendment, whether it's the 14th Amendment, we do not get to selectively nullify it because it's unpopular with the majority of this chamber. And this isn't conservatism, this is legislative overreach at its finest. We swore an oath to this prop to use your words, the Constitution of the United States, not to our party, not to ideology, and not to the loudest voices, especially in our primary elections come this fall. I'm not going to be voting for this bill, as are many members of my caucus, because it erodes the very constitutional framework we swore to uphold. And I challenge all of you to really think hard about what we're doing today. Thank you.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll simply point out that this bill, as I've demonstrated already over the last 15 minutes, is completely constitutional. There are statements being made by the minority caucus that somehow this bill violates the Supremacy Clause or the 14th Amendment, but yet there's not been any legal authority cited by any of these members of the minority caucus to support that proposition. The simple fact is that it is black letter law in the United States of America that the 14th Amendment does not bind private parties. And I'll further point out that it is this body that frankly is upholding both the Tennessee Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. And it was the U.S. Supreme Court on June the 26th of 2015 that overstepped its bounds and invented this right to marriage of individuals of the same sex, despite there being no support whatsoever in the language of the 14th Amendment for that proposition.
All right. Representative Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I speak on this from a purely professional and personal feeling about what's been going on in this country for about 5 to 6 years. The National Association, and I'm a realtor, I've been one for 28 years. The National Association of Realtors changed their ethics code and went, I guess you could call it woke, and said that if we, which they're supposed to administer anything inside the profession, they changed it for realtors across the country that if you say or offend anything to the LGBT community, you can be kicked out of your profession and prevented from using the MLS. And they find pastors that are also realtors and threw them out of their membership across this country, as well as candidates for office, simply because they preach that it's a sin, something's a sin. They had no freedom of speech. Thousands of realtors in Tennessee have lived in that fear for years and across this country. And now, after President Trump's executive order, the NAR lifted that late last year and took it back to the way it was, where they don't administer outside of their profession. So I thank you for running this. And the intent is, and there's people in professions all across this country where politics has come into play where they shouldn't be in professional organizations. And there are literally, this is really taking action. I mean, to tell a preacher that you can't practice real estate anymore, that you're kicked out of the MLS and kicked out of your association, and that you have to take deprogramming, Christian deprogramming, and be fined to continue to operate as a realtor is wrong in either party. And they should not, any organization should not dictate what you do outside of your profession as long as you're not breaking the law. So I thank you for all the realtors across this state and all across this nation for running this, and thank you very, very much.
Representative Bolso, anything?
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the sponsor, our chaplain reminded us something this morning in his kind words and in song, that as image bearers of Almighty God, we are to love one another. And we are reminded all throughout Scripture that as image bearers of Almighty God, we are to love one another. And the very foundation of our nation is based on that. Many times over the years, we have gotten that wrong. Many times the courts have assumed things that the Constitution does not assert. I would stand in agreement with you that that is the case in this decision. I would stand in agreement with you that in this case, the court decided to redefine something that Almighty God had not given that court the authority to redefine. We can stand and we can debate this topic and still love one another as human beings, as image bearers of God, and go back to that Constitution that He has given us. I look back over our history, sponsor, in America, the times that we departed from what we have in our Constitution, those boundaries we are given in government. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to stand and take on what the courts have overreached in this matter. We see in history many times controversial but still important truths, the times that the courts have gotten outside their bounds. Dred Scott was a time that the court got far outside its boundaries. Roe was a time the court got way outside its boundaries. And so I applaud your efforts. I stand in support with this. And I stand in support from Article 1, Section 3 of our Tennessee Constitution, which recognizes Almighty God. And again, puts an onus on each one of us to love and respect one another, but not to attempt to redefine that which God has given us. So I stand in support of your bill. Thank you.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for your comments, Representative Fritz.
Representative Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move previous question.
Previous question been called. There's objection. We're on the board. All those in favor of previous question vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 70, 23 nays.
Previous question prevails. We're voting. All those in favor of House Bill 1473 as amended vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 68, 24 nays.
House Bill 1473, having received the constitutional majority, hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsiders table. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1684 by Chairman Hawk and others relative to personal delivery devices. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1625.
Chairman Hawk moves to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1625. Properly seconded without objection. So ordered. Chairman Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 1625 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Hawk moves passage of Senate Bill 1625 on third and final consideration. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call it First Amendment.
House Transportation Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, it's the same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, same as the Senate amendment, move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 1625 will modernize Tennessee's personal delivery device law to reflect advancements in delivery technology since the statute was first enacted in 2020. It provides clear statewide rules for low-speed autonomous delivery devices while maintaining strong public safety guardrails and permits local regulation within the establishment's framework. By leveraging autonomous technology for short-distance deliveries, we can help merchants meet rising demand while serving customers better and creating new opportunities for everyone. As amended, the bill will expand the types of areas in which a personal delivery device can be lawfully operated. It will authorize this device to travel up to 20 miles per hour when operated outside of pedestrian areas. It will allow the regulation of these devices by local resolutions or ordinances within certain regulatory restrictions. A few questions have come up in committee, and I'll address those as we go forward. These devices are designed for short-distance neighborhood-scale deliveries. They are primarily in areas with sidewalks, bike paths, and structured routes. They're staged at a fixed hub and dispatched for single delivery trips. They return to the hub after completing deliveries. These devices may also be stored or wait for deliveries at nests, smaller hubs that are stationed throughout the operating area. The compartments are electronically secured and can only be opened by the verified recipient of the delivery. Operationally, that's one customer per one trip. If you could picture what a child's little toy car would look like, a little toddler's play school card would look like, it's kind of a cross between that and maybe like a what you would see as a baby stroller being pushed size-wise. These devices operate at low speeds, are programmed with pedestrian detection, and have logged hundreds of thousands of safe operating miles nationally with no critical incidents. The amendment also clarifies that these devices do not possess legal rights. They are tools regulated under pedestrian adjacent rules to define how they interact with traffic, but they are not legal actors. Also, local governments have full authority to regulate and prohibit. They are programmed to detect pedestrians, animals, obstacles, and operate in predictable speeds. They automatically know when they are encountering a hazard. And you need to put your sign down there, sir. With that explanation, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Hawk renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Chairman Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I certainly appreciate the legislation. I do have concerns about the safety issues that potentially created. So throughout my district, we have situations where there's sidewalk, curb, on-street parking, bicycle lane. So my problem and concern is the hurdle we're creating for bicyclists in these bike lanes. We've created laws and passed laws in the past saying these are not part of the roadway. Automobiles are not to operate in those bike lanes. But here we're allowing these delivery devices to operate in these bike lanes. So in the instance I just described, what is going to happen when a bicyclist is going down the bike lane, there's on-street parking on one side and moving traffic on the other? Who's giving way and where is that delivery device going?
Chairman Hall.
The delivery device will be able to detect when something like that is coming upon them, and they will act accordingly, either stop, allow something to go pass by, or take appropriate measures.
Chairman Clemens.
Well, and I apologize for not bringing this up earlier, but therein lies my problem. And I know what size we're talking about, and this is actually better than legislation we passed a few years ago, allowing them to operate on sidewalks, because it does have size restrictions on the delivery device. But the problem there is there's nowhere to go, and so there are situations where the delivery device may yield to the cyclist, but it can't go into the parked car to the right, theoretically to the right. And if it goes into oncoming traffic, it's going to create a motor vehicle accident or get run over, or it's going to just stop, and therefore the cyclist is going to hit it and go flying one way or another, hopefully not into traffic. So that's my concern with the legislation, is protecting the integrity of not only our bike lanes, but our sidewalks, and any potential harm they could create. I certainly understand the spirit of the bill, understand the desire to have these in certain communities, but I have sincere concerns about that safety provision and any problem we're creating for pedestrians or bicyclists. So thank you for answering the question.
Chairman Hall.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for sharing your concerns. I have fully vetted this piece of legislation with your concerns in mind as I viewed this. I'll reiterate, these devices operate at low speeds, are programmed with pedestrian and other detection devices, 360-degree detections. There have been hundreds of thousands of hours of quality control viewing this with no incidents suggested, as you have mentioned. I know our job here is to think of what if, and you're doing a good job thinking of what if, but nothing like that has occurred in hundreds of thousands of hours of tests.
Chairman Clemens.
And I apologize, this bill was amended and I didn't see it quickly enough. Does this preempt local government's ability to regulate these?
Chairman Hall.
And thank you. That was one of the major components of the amendment, was working with the Tennessee Municipal League to ensure that local ordinances can regulate and prohibit as deemed necessary, much like we've seen other devices, specifically in your district. So there is nothing that would, local governments can prohibit and regulate these devices.
Chairman Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it.
Very good. Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Speaker and sponsor. And I've talked about this legislation before. One of my concerns is, and I've seen these devices in Los Angeles and other places. One of my concerns really has to do with a lot of people who rely on the gig economy for work and for jobs. And by having these devices, in essence, and I believe you told us that DoorDash brought you this legislation. This corporation is looking to increase its profits without any concern for people in our communities who actually rely on these jobs to help them make more money. And with how bad the economy is and how high costs are, I think this is ultimately going to be replacing people who work in our community with this company's job opportunities. And so for that reason, I won't be able to support the legislation. That being said, I think it's really important for local government to retain their power. And I think the change that was made here as it relates to local government was that they can only prohibit it if it's related to public safety. Is that was the change in the code that has been made. Is that correct?
Chairman Hall.
That is correct, but it would be related to public safety, just as the conversation the gentleman from Nashville and I were speaking about. So they would still have full authority to regulate, prohibit, should local government choose to do so.
Representative Pearson.
Yes, and I think the previous one just said it prohibited by local resolutions or ordinances if the local government determines that the prohibition is necessary. And then the updated language is also saying a regulation adopted by a local government must not be inconsistent with this section. So it's just a change that the only reason it could be prohibited would be because of public safety. It can't be for any other reasons or concerns that people have.
Chairman Hall.
I don't see any other concern than public safety, unless you just didn't like the looks of it. But it would be for public safety, yes.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you. I just know that's the clarification or the change in code that was being made as it relates to local governments. Thank you.
Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move previous question.
Previous question been called. Any objection? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1625 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. As every member voted, the same member wishes to change their vote. Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 80, 11 nays, one present, not voting.
Senate Bill 1625, having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare it passed. Without objection, motion for reconsider table. Let the journal reflect. Representative Dixie is excused. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1501 by Leader Lamberth and others relative to residential landlord registries.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move passage of House Bill 1501 on third and final consideration.
Leader Lamberth moves passage. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call First Amendment.
House State and Local Government Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Crawford, you're recognized.
House and State Local Government Committee Amendment number 1. This amendment makes a technical correction to the bill. I move to adopt.
Chairman Crawford moves adoption of Committee Amendment number 1. Probably seconded. Any discussion of the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting Committee Amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopt the next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, first and foremost, I'm not a fan of the caption of the bill. There's just nowhere else in the code to put a point of contact, which is what this bill is. A REIT is an investment entity. It is an investment mechanism through the IRS. It is a very specific entity. And they do not always, and in fact, rarely directly own pieces of property, dwelling places. But when they do, because of the nature of that investment entity, which may own thousands and thousands of dwellings across multiple states, it's just numbers on a page. I mean, it's just an investment instrument that's used by the IRS. There's no decent way to find out a name, a phone number, and an address for a city to reach out and say, hey, the grass is a foot tall, or somebody abandoned a car in the front yard, or there's a police or fire emergency, to just try to call somebody, to just contact someone. So if a REIT directly owns more than 10 dwellings at no cost to them whatsoever, if the city votes by a 2/3 majority, they would have to opt into this. Then the REIT would have to put a name, a phone number, and an address with the city so they just know who to contact. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the caption because I've always stood against registries. I still do. This is not a registry. A registry by definition gets into the ownership or occupancy of a particular dwelling and cost money. I mean, it's a registry that's kept with the city. This is not that. It is a point of contact, but it simply doesn't fit anywhere else in the code. With that, I renew my message. I renew my motion.
Leader Lamberth renews motion. Discussion on the bill. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Leader, thank you for bringing this legislation. I promise you, this has been a major problem in our market and I'm sure a lot of other markets. And a lot of time, and what's happening also is these entities are creating transient communities in our communities, right? Which, and then a lot of times these purchases are inflated because they are paying higher to where an individual that might be locally a local owner and occupier can't access purchasing, right? Which and then when it becomes the rent is jacked up, so it's creating a false inflation. There's a whole host of challenges and issues that are coming with these entities, and then there's no way to contact them. So if they don't take care of the property, it becomes blight. Blight has been a challenge. I want to thank Mayor Paul Young for his real push on eradicating blight in our community, and I think this is going to be incredibly helpful. In fact, we don't always agree on stuff, but I'm actually signing on to your bill. I hope it don't sink it, but I'm signing on to it. Thank you for bringing it. I appreciate you.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move previous question.
Appreciate the cause their objection. Seeing no objection, we're voting. All those in favor of House Bill 1501 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 84, 2 nays, 5 present, not voting.
House Bill 1501 have received a constitutional majority. I hereby declare it passed without objection. The motion reconsiders table. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1552 by Chairman Powers.
Chairman Powers, at your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that House Bill 1552 be rolled to Monday's regular calendar.
Without objection, roll to Monday's regular calendar. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, that completes the regular calendar.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Representative Boyd, you're recognized. Oh, hang on. Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the rules be suspended for the immediate consideration of SJR number 692.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
A resolution to recognize and honor Norman Brown, Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce 2025 Business Legend of the Year.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules suspended. Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to concur in SJR number 692.
Representative Stevens moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 692, probably seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. I hereby declare concurred. Without objection, motion reconsiders table. Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules be suspended for the immediate consideration of SJR number 693.
Ms. Clerk, please read the caption.
A resolution to honor and congratulate Jimmy Pitts on receiving the 2025 Pinnacle Award.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to concur in SJR's number 693.
Representative Stevens moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 693, probably seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare concurred in. Without objection, motion reconsiders table. Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules be suspended for the immediate consideration of SJR number 694.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
Senate Joint Resolution 694, a resolution to honor and congratulate Dow Smith on receiving the 2025 Business at its Best Award.
You've heard the caption. Any objection? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to concur in SJR number 694.
Representative Stevens moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 694, probably seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare concurred in. Without objection, motion reconsiders table. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, we have a message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I'm directed to return to the House. House Bill 940 substituted for the Senate bill on the same subject, committed and passed by the Senate.
Monday's message calendar. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Scheduling and procedural announcements.
Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the last day to put bills on notice for the Civil Justice Subcommittee will be March 4th. Last day to put bills on notice, March 4th. That final calendar will be heard on March 11th. That's for the Civil Justice Subcommittee. The schedule for the rest of the day, Education, Health, and General Welfare Sub of Joint GovOp will meet immediately after session. Commerce, Labor, Transportation, and Agriculture Subcommittee will meet immediately following that, with full joint government operations having rule review following the two subcommittee meetings. Mr. Speaker, the following reports have been filed with the clerk's office and are available for review by any member who wishes to do so. The Department of Human Services Public Chapter 38 Quarter 2 report, the Tennessee Administrative Office of Court Status Report on the Tennessee Statewide Court Information Systems Technology Solution, the annual report for the fiscal year 2025 by the Office of Juvenile Justice, the fiscal year 24-25 Department of Children's Services annual report, the annual nursing home inspection and enforcement report 2026, the regulatory flexibility recommendations to CMS report, the handgun carry permit statistics calendar year 2025 report, the 2025 annual report on TDOT's progress on passenger and freight rail and public transportation efforts, the proposed amendments to Tennessee Rules of Criminal Procedure, the proposed amendments to Tennessee Rules of Appellate Procedure, the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security Immigration Report, the Second Look Commission 2025 annual report, the 2025 State of the Child in Tennessee report, the 2025 Summary of Significant Tennessee Supreme Court Workers' Compensation Decisions from the Treasury Department, the annual Charity Care Report from Tennessee Health Facilities Commission for 2025, the TennCare Sickle Cell Disease Report for 2025, the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security Ignition Interlock Statistics 2025 Legislative ID Year-End Report.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call.
Roll call. Next order, take the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, 92 members present.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
That completes the regular order, Mr. Speaker.
Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until 2 p.m. on Monday, February 23rd, 2026.
Objection. The House stands recessed till 2 p.m. on Monday, February 23rd, 2026.